So our global theme this year is Living Out Loud. And our monthly theme is Light Within the Shadows. And today our talk title is Unlearning the Fear of Darkness. Unlearning the Fear of Darkness. We all began in darkness. In this Mother's Day, we remember that we all came from that dark, warm, watery womb. And we felt safe, and we felt nurtured, and we felt comfortable in that place. That is where we emerged from. Now, there's different kinds of darkness. There is the physical darkness. PG&E pulls the plug. We go into the dark. And there's also the darkness of the unknown. The darkness of the different, the darkness of grief, the darkness of betrayal, the darkness of divorce, the darkness of racism and hatred, many different kinds of darkness. Now, as children, we learn that one of the ways to cope and control our fear of the darkness is to make up a story. And so when we're in the dark in our bedrooms, we say, there is something under the bed. And we tell ourselves this story. There's something under the bed, or I heard something in the closet. I know it's in there. And Mom, you call and you get, someone comes and you get comforted and you get reassurance for your fear. But you have control because you have made up a story. And we're very good at that. We are all storytellers to ourselves and to each other. And sometimes that story that we made up as children to cope with situations that we found fearful are actually still present in us. We just don't remember that we made up a belief from that story that is still present in us. Now, when we experience physical darkness, we've lost a sense. We only have 5, and vision is a big one. And so when we lose that sense of vision, it's scary. I remember one time I worked in a building in San Francisco, and it was a very old building. It actually had windows that open. That's how old you can tell it is. But anyway, it was a very old building and a little narrow staircase. And I'm in this narrow staircase going down one evening, and the lights go out. And I cannot see my hand in front of my face. It is like totally dark. Now that's scary. But I just thought, well, I've been up and down these stairs a million times. So I'm just going to reach out because I know the wall isn't very far away. And I just sort of reached for the wall. So I was using another sense, the sense of touch, in my hands and my feet. And I made it down the stairs. So we have learned coping skills for losing things like vision. I have a good friend, my college roommate, loves to go on vacations that involve horses. And she once went, I believe it was to New Zealand, and they were going on a horseback ride at night in the jungle. And they were not allowed to bring any light or to have any light. And so she said it was so dark in that jungle, she could not see her hand in front of her face. So she's riding a horse. She said the only thing she could see was when the horse's hoof hit a stone, there would be a spark. That was the only light. So it was a lesson in trust. She had to trust that the horse could find its way, that it knew how to cope with the darkness. And perhaps its vision is different from ours. So it could see more than we could in that darkness. And so it was a matter of trust. Now in metaphysics, we say trust is an acronym for truly relying upon Spirit's timing. Truly relying upon Spirit's timing. So we have to trust to get through the darkness. Ernest Holmes says, and he's the founder of the Science of Mind and Spirit for those folks out there in virtual land, the quickest and most effective method to get rid of fear is to get quiet and lift up our thought, our whole thought, in confidence and faith in something bigger than we are. Confidence and faith in something bigger than we are. We also say in metaphysics that fear is an acronym for false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. But of course, to us, it gets very real. It gets very real. And we make up stories about things that are unknown or unfamiliar. Perhaps we think that, undocumented immigrants are all, evildoers of one kind or another. They're all here to rob us and God knows what. But I remembered when I was driving the other day, I was thinking about all these immigrants, and I thought, oh my God, I had an undocumented immigrant in my family. My grandmother's brother was an Irishman who came over and fought with Teddy Roosevelt in the Rough Riders in Cuba. And so when he got out of being a Rough Rider, he came to San Francisco to live with his sister. Now, he was an inspiring writer, and he had changed his name from Patrick Ward, which was his Irish name, to Maxwell Gray, which was a nice English name. And so he started writing, and he wrote articles and stories for a magazine that was primarily focused on boxing. And I don't think he was entirely focused on boxing, but that's where he could get published, so he did. But, he also ended up taking a lot of under-the-table jobs and all that kind of stuff. And eventually, he realized that his dream was not coming true, and he became an alcoholic. But he also used to go on long walks with my dad and tell him about all the things he'd read, from Shakespeare to James Joyce. He was very literate, and he inspired that literacy in my dad as well. So he had an impact. And he was actually apparently around when I was a little toddler in my grandfather's house, because apparently I was the only one who was happy to see Uncle Max when he got home. Because apparently I would run down the hall going, Max! But that's because as children, we don't have all those judgments. We don't necessarily fear everybody. We haven't been taught what we're supposed to fear. I mean, the Quaker Parker Palmer invites us to turn from judgment to wonder. So we could look at somebody who looks different from us. Maybe they have tattoos. Maybe they have piercings. Maybe they are black. And we have this whole fear of darkness, and here are these poor people who end up being black, and we fear them just because of their skin color. Because we have a fear of the darkness. But the darkness and the light are both important parts of life. This wonderful yin-yang symbol, comes from China, I believe, or Japan. Anyway, it comes from Asia. And, it shows that in the darkness there is light, and in the light there is darkness. So if we try to pretend everything's sweetness and light, it doesn't work, because we still have that little spot of darkness in us. And our role as spiritual beings, having a human experience, is to discover and to embrace both our light and our darkness. because we need both. We need to find out what's in that shadow. And one of the ways we find out where that shadow is that somebody triggers us. I remember many years ago being on the board here at Sierra Center, and there was an individual, and I found myself getting really angry at this person. But I didn't. What I could have done, I didn't go blasting out that anger. I thought, this is really a violent reaction I am having. What's up with that? So we have to look and see what's triggering us. What is that? Because chances are it's not that thing out there, it's something in here. And I realized that that person's being was reminding me of my stepfather, who could be very violent and scary. And so my reaction to that violence and that scary was anger a lot when I was younger. And so that's where the anger was coming from. So it was like, oh, that's old stuff. I don't have to act on that anymore. I could let that go and just be present here and listen to this person's ideas and accept their ideas on their merit rather than on my reaction. So we have to remember that science of mind gives us tools to deal with those shadow aspects of ourselves that we may not like, but there they are. And so we have to figure out, oh, that's in us. We also sometimes get triggered by the collective consciousness that we're a part of. Because there is only one mind, and that is the mind of God. But in that collective consciousness of humanity, there's all kinds of junk. There is all kinds of weirdo beliefs from ancient times, from, medieval hoodoo, voodoo, woo-woo, who knows what. And we have that in that big old collective consciousness, and so sometimes it pops up, and we have to recognize that that's not me. That's not who I am. I am, the presence of love, the presence of joy, the presence of harmony, the presence of God, and I remember that, and then whatever it is, I bless it and forgive myself for participating in it, and hopefully I put a little positive affirmation in there to clean up that collective consciousness, right? Because we're all participating in it, so we get to put in a new thought. The darkness can be a place of creativity. When we don't know, we're in the midst of the mystery, we don't know how to deal with whatever is coming up, we have to get creative. And so the creativity can be inspired in that darkness, in the mystery, in the experience of transition. Because we seem to be going through a big transition following the pandemic, politically, economically, all of those things. We are just finding ourselves in the midst of it all. Now, our teaching symbol, in the science of mind, we have this teaching symbol. And the circle represents the allness of God, everywhere present. And the top part is thought, mind, the thought of God, the infinite creator, and our own thought processes in there. And then this middle part is called the law. It doesn't care whether you're thinking good thoughts or bad thoughts. It just says, oh, a thought accompanied by emotion, and it makes it real. This is in the manifestation piece. But we have to remember that the top two parts are invisible. They're in the dark. They are in the dark of our own awareness and consciousness because we don't actually physically see our thought until it outpictures in our experience. Jesus said, knock and the door shall be opened. So if we want to have an experience of more of love, more peace, more harmony, more wholeness, we go inside because that's where all of that lives. And it's in the dark. So the dark is a safe place. It's a creative place. It's a harmonious place. It is a place that allows us to bring forth something entirely different, something entirely new. Brené Brown says, only when we are brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. Only when we're brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. In the summary that I received from the Science of Mind headquarters in Colorado, they wrote this little summary of this, and it says, we have likened darkness to evil for eons. And, I saw a post on Facebook recently that said, black dogs don't get as adopted as frequently as light dogs. Yeah, it's like, what? Yeah, the whole thing about black cats, oh my God. Scary. No. We've generally been taught to fear instead of to embrace the darkness. The darkness is a fertile place of creation, creativity, the womb. The darkness gives birth to the light. In order to appreciate the beauty of darkness, we have to unlearn our stigmas about it. What if we partnered with the dark instead of fearing, controlling, or labeling it? What if we held the unknown with wonderment instead of fear? These healthy shifts would help to change our relationship to darkness and help us encircle the shadows and the light, to embrace it all. So we are all about embracing our wholeness, embracing our oneness, embracing all of who we are authentically so that we can be that presence, because we have gifts to give. And if we don't embrace that, we may not give them. People grow up and their parents have expectations for them. And I was hearing a comedian yesterday on NPR, and of course, this woman was an attorney who is now a comedian because she became an attorney for her parents, and it was like, this is not who I am. And now she's a comedian. So it's about accepting who we are entirely and going into that scary place, because, it's not like you can get a degree in comedy. You can't go learn all the skills. You have to develop your own skills. You have to come from your own essence and connect with others. So it's about being who we truly are. So let's just take that into prayer, shall we? So we just open to the realization and recognition of the presence and power of the good. And remember that we are that good of God expresses in us, through us, and as us in every moment. And so I know that as we look at and embrace the wholeness that we are, the light and the dark, we come together in greater ways, in more functional ways, in more enriching ways, so that we can experience that wholeness of life that is meant to be expressed, the goodness of God that is wanting to be known and experienced in and through and as each and every one of us. And so I'm grateful for this moment in time where we can come together and release our fear of darkness and embrace what scares us and move through it to that courageous place in our heart that allows us to be who we truly are, in oneness, in wholeness, in joy. And so with great gratitude, I release my word into the law of life itself, knowing it is complete. And we affirm this together as we say, and so it is.